The first two segments of this series provide evidence that the December 7, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor was no surprise. They are found in the playlist linked in the description that includes two other short videos about President Franklin Roosevelt's plot. Here is other interesting information about the Pearl Harbor attack that is rarely mentioned. Vice Admiral Walter Anderson was Director of Naval Intelligence at the Navy Department in Washington, D.C. from June 1939 until December 1940. He reported intelligence daily, in person, to President Franklin Roosevelt, who made him a member of his Special Intelligence Committee that included the Director of Military Intelligence and the Director of the FBI. In January 1941, Anderson assumed command of the battleship fleet at Pearl Harbor. He was third in command at Pearl Harbor and was also placed in charge of radio intercept operations. According to the famous book, Day of Deceit, Admiral Anderson was sent to Hawaii as an intelligence gatekeeper to suppress or downplay information that Japan may attack Hawaii. The admirals in Hawaii lived in beautiful Navy mansions at Pearl Harbor. When Admiral Anderson arrived in January 1941, he stunned everyone by renting a home for his family far away from Pearl Harbor. On November 27, 1941, 10 days before the attack, a war warning was sent to Hawaiian commanders from the War Department in Washington, D.C., stating that Japan was expected to make an aggressive move in the next few days. Despite this, all of Admiral Anderson's battleships remained in port, moored close together, with shore leave authorized. Walter Foley was an experienced sailor serving aboard the battleship USS Pennsylvania on December 7th. His ship was at sea on war alert north of Hawaii until ordered to return on November 24th. He was stunned to see the other 9 battleships all in port and bunched up. The aircraft carriers and their escort ships had left, so there were no American warships patrolling Hawaiian waters. Read his account linked in the description. The actions of the USS Ward are often mentioned. It sunk a Japanese Midget submarine attempting to enter Pearl Harbor early that morning and reported to the fleet, quote, "We have attacked, fired upon, and dropped depth charges on a submarine operating in the defensive sea area." This occurred 1 hour before the Japanese aerial attack began. What is never discussed is that a Navy seaplane also sunk a Japanese Midget submarine 1 mile from the Pearl Harbor entrance an hour before the aerial attack began. This is noted in the U.S. Navy's official history, linked in the description, which also states the Navy had 58 flight-ready seaplanes in Hawaii. Sending at least one northward each morning to scout the area where the Japanese were most likely to approach seems like common sense. But all were on the ground early that morning, except some from the VP-14 squadron that had 3 seaplanes on patrol around the island. Seaplane VP-1 reported sinking a Japanese submarine at 7 a.m. that morning. The USS Ward had reported sinking a submarine 6 minutes earlier. This is hard proof that red alert sirens should have sounded. This is the official account in Navy history to explain why it took an hour for a report of enemy contact to reach Navy headquarters. This may be correct, but it looks like an attempt to explain away the hour delay. Perhaps Admiral Anderson was in charge that Sunday morning. In 2003, it was reported that at least 3 Japanese Midget submarines had entered Pearl Harbor before the aerial attack. These were 80-foot, 2-man subs carried overseas by a much larger mother submarine. 2 subs had technical problems and 1 beached. The 3rd sub successfully launched 1 torpedo that hit the USS West Virginia and another that probably hit the USS Oklahoma. This is based on interviews with former Japanese sailors and a picture showing the submarine attacking. This event had nothing to do with Roosevelt's plot, but is interesting history that remains ignored. See the article linked in the description. Another rarely mentioned topic is that the Japanese only attacked military targets. Nearly all the civilian casualties on December 7th were caused by friendly fire from Army and Navy anti-aircraft guns. Hurling hundreds of gun projectiles weighing up to 55 pounds into the sky was dangerous. The chance of any individual shell bringing down an aircraft was slim, and many did not explode until they landed, especially when inexperienced sailors rushed to load the guns and failed to set the time fuse or loaded anti-ship shells. These guns killed 32 people in Honolulu, 6 miles away. Another 36 civilians were killed elsewhere. See the article linked in the description. A book of interest is titled The Final Secret of Pearl Harbor, the Washington Contribution to the Japanese Attack. This book revealed evidence that President Franklin Roosevelt conspired to allow the Pearl Harbor attack by withholding key information from Hawaiian commanders. What makes this book unique is that it was authored by Rear Admiral Robert Theobald, who was aboard the USS Ward during the attack, while in command of the 20 ships of Destroyer Flotilla 1. Many in the U.S. Congress suspected the Pearl Harbor attack was a false flag organized by President Roosevelt, and 9 congressional investigations were held during and after the war. Admiral Theobald wrote his book shortly after the war ended, but it could not be published until 1954 after the Navy declassified documents that he cited. Admiral Theobald's book was pre-published as a long article in U.S. News and World Report in 1954. This article can be read for free online via the CIA's reading room. See the link in the description. For unknown reasons, the CIA had copied this article and kept it in its classified files until 2005. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor remains one of the most interesting and controversial events in American history and provides a great lesson on how a reluctant nation can be persuaded to support a major war.